Don't invest in a large digital twin platform that in 2 years' time will create finally some business value, because you run the risk: one, it's outdated; two, you might have chosen the wrong platform; three, you only learn by doing. What are the use cases that really can benefit from this technology?
Welcome to the Smart Twins podcast. Today I'm pleased to welcome with me Bart Brink as our guest. Bart has almost 20 years of experience in leading transitions and transformations in the built environment. He has been actively involved in both the global and the national levels around the development of digital twins since 2017. Currently, Bart is leading the National Innovation Program in the Netherlands around the renovation of assets in infrastructure, housing, and real estate. Not forgetting to mention that Bart is the chair of buildingSMART Digital Twins Working Group at the international chapter. Bart, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to join this talk.
Perfect. So, to kick this off, Bart, I would like to give our listeners a little bit more background about your work so far and the different activities you have done. So, what brought you to the digital twins? And I mean, you started from 2017 working with digital twins, which is the exact time when this trend started to become more attractive to the people in the AC sector. Can you tell us more about this background?
Yes, of course. Happy to do so. And I first was exposed to the development of digital twins by the CEO of GE, Benelux at the time. And I think at the time they launched their platform Predix, which was quite one of the first movers, there were more at the time, really going in that space of connecting the physical and digital worlds better. And besides that, I liked the story, how he talked about the benefit of better making that connections. Always the term digital twin, a physical replica of a digital situation, or digital situation of a physical replica, really made sense to me, because it was in a context that we just wrote a strategy as a large engineering firm, especially focusing on bringing those worlds better together. So engineering firms active in the physical space for ages in designing and optimizing assets, building bridges, heat pumps, water treatment stations, and the likes. And we saw the potential of data and digital technology to do that better, to better design, to better manage these assets. And with a strong visualization of the term digital twin, I have a physical situation, I can make a digital replica, and that helps me to better understand and better design and better operate. It really made sense as a topic going forward. So for me, that was a term that never went away. And from that onwards, I made it one of my personal ambitions to drive that agenda forward, not only for the company I worked for at the time, Royal Ascon D3, but also for the sector.
Very interesting. So I think in what you described it, you already touched across the phases. So you talked about design, architecture, talked about operations as well, and also the virtual and the physical assets. So can you tell us a little bit more at that time? Was it like described as the digital part is BIM models, or what was it like? What kind of representations were you working on? Or it was maybe GIS map? I don't know if it's okay to share such information.
No, I think, let's say, especially in the first years, the definition by Gartner changed every year. So I think it was in the explorative phase where we still question ourselves, what is it actually? And I think part of it was always, we have a physical situation, a wind farm, and I make a digital replica. I think that always was there. But I think the dimensions of what a digital twin could be, or should not be, were still under development. So there were parts really focusing on highlighting, no, there should always be a digital copy. It should be two-way. It would be really only then it's a digital twin if it really interferes back into the physical world. But there are also people saying now it's already starting in the design. So I think there was never, and I think still is not yet, full consensus about what it could be, because it depends. It depends on the context you're in, the business purposes, the big business objectives you want to achieve, what it could be. And therefore, I always like to talk a little bit about the dimensions of a digital twin, and the phases it can operate in. And yes, it can, across the life cycle, be beneficial, depending on where you are in the journey of an asset. So I'm a little bit hesitant to say it's this or that, but at the time, it was still under exploration, and it was always clear, okay, it has a value in operations, clearly, but also it can really help us bridging the gap between design and operate and design back. So really close, we call it at a certain time the infinity loop, where we really start to learn from operations back to design and from design into operations, and that it kind of flows across that asset lifecycle. So I think that was how it has been developing still, and I think till today, these discussions happens now and then that people say, "Oh, you're just talking about a virtual replica, or you're just talking about a digital replica, but not yet a full digital twin because." No. And then they got an argument in about how it should uh, interfere back into the physical environment again.
But it is so. Maybe before diving deeper into those use cases or how people define digital twins, you already almost defined what is a digital twin. So maybe you can summarize defining it in a couple of sentences. It's like my favorite question I ask in every episode, to be honest. So yeah, how Bart defines a digital twin? Weird, physical.
There's always, let's have in my description, let's not talk definitions, but descriptions. It's always, there is a physical object, and it can be small, big, it can be a supply chain, it can be city, can be a region, can be the whole, all the oceans around the earth. Again, it depends. And we make a digital replica. And there is data in exchange between the physical and the digital situation, or a future exchange if you are still in design phase. So there's always a part of dynamic data around it. And so there should be a kind of, how do I keep it relevantly actual? So it doesn't mean real time per se. It depends again. For operational digital twins in your plant, it's really important that that's near real time. But for strategic planning in cities, it's less important. It's real time. But there is a dynamic flow of information that kind of secures that the digital twin is an accurate representation of the physical situation at hand. So I think that's the second thing. And the third thing for me, it should go beyond just having a replica or a virtual representation, but it should have a clear business function. So it really should help to give insights for decision makers, or it should help you to do certain analysis or simulations in what a predictive side of digital twins. So I always say these three things: there is a physical thing, there is dynamic information flowing, otherwise it's just an asset model or bin, and it should be really have a business purpose. Otherwise it's just a virtual replica with no should I have it?
Perfect. So if we try to abstract from what you said, some kind of framework, is it correct to say that the digital twin has like a specialized use cases based on the phase or the time of the building itself? It can be in design, or it can be in operations. We will have definitely different business use cases or different values we can get out of it. And at the same time, also different dynamic things moving. Maybe in construction, the digital twin can be representing the actual state of what's being constructed and what's installed versus what's in progress or what's delayed. While in operations, it can be BMS data or IoT data showing performance. Does this align with your definition?
Yes, it does. Every time, a couple of dimensions you can look into. There's a dimension of, is my digital twin looking backward or forward? Is it descriptive, is predictive, or prescriptive even further, or transformative, closed loop, feeding back into? That's one dimension. So it's a little bit of maturity, you could say, to a certain extent, where it's looking ahead or a little bit back. Secondly, I think there are use cases indeed across the asset life cycle. So you can have it in design, you can have it in operations, you can have it in construction, you can have it in other situations as well. So I think that's the second dimension of. And the third dimension I would like to add says something about fidelity and frequency as well. You have operational digital twins, like my factory example, which is really about really learning by doing, continuously updating, and then making direct interventions in an operational situation. On the other side of the story, you have more strategic digital twins. We really help. You see a lot in city planning, for example, right? That are a little bit more strategic. They also use dynamic data, but have much more longer planning horizons they look into. Right? You can explore, for example, using digital twins, various supply chain scenarios, or their likes, more strategically. And in between, you have kind of those often used scheduling digital twins, or twins used for optimize more tactical level stuff. To make a schedule, for example. So there you see in all these three dimensions you can interplay with, and therefore there is not such a thing as the digital twin. Now it depends on one hand. And on the other hand, if we want to make more complex decisions where these digital twins interplay, we have to look into, as we call it, an ecosystem or of connected digital twins. And that's moving a little bit more in the Building Smart International space we have been exploring on that topic.
Connecting this to what you said at the beginning, I started seeing now the dimensions that you described. So I think we have a dimension maybe of a scale, because you mentioned also city level versus a factory, maybe versus a building. And at the same time, we have a granularity of data, where, like, if we have like data that's real time in detail, or maybe aggregated data over time, and maybe it would be interesting, like the frequency. I think you also mentioned that. Maybe in a factory, we need real time information to really intervene and react to any kind of issues happening. While at the city level, it's for more strategic decisions. So, last thing you mentioned already, building smart, which is a topic that I would like really to dive into, because I believe that building smart can bring really impact in standardization. We saw that with IFC on the building level, or BIM overall. Now, for digital twins, what kind of standardization, what kind of efforts are happening?
Now, I think the digital twin building smart story started in Berlin 2019. So there was a group of leaders from the industry coming together in a couple of workshops and saying, hey, we see that next to the standardization, the open BIM development ongoing, we look ahead a little bit and we see also the digital twin developments coming at us. And they acknowledge that in a kind of evolutionary approach from BIM to twins, we gradually could move into that place. I think they are related concepts, not the same concept. They built on top of each other. There are differences between the two, of course. But they said, okay, digital twins will become relevant. And they said a couple of things across the asset lifecycle principle we discussed before, but also that ecosystem thinking. So there will not be just a digital twin, but there will be multiple digital twins which need to be interacting with each other. And that brought us to two important concepts which they have fully aligns with Building Smart want to achieve, is about standards and open standards on one hand, and interoperability on the other hand. Because you want to make sure that data can be safely transferred from A to B. So a little bit and therefore it's a strategic working group. We really try to be a little bit ahead of the curve of the IFC development and look a little bit from that future back into what would it mean for the Building Smart community, and how can it also have a role not just in the open BIM development, where still a lot of focus rightfully is, but also how can it contribute to that open standards and interoperability requirements that digital twins ecosystems will need in the future. And what would it actually mean? And that's from that on, they published a couple of white papers. We held various discussions with the community, but also reached out to others, for example, the GIS community, because there's also a BIM GIS interplay and digital twins, of course, there. But also to asset owners to see what does this actually mean, and how does this transition from where we are today, where this wonderful world of connected digital twins that create better outcomes for people and nature, how do we get there, and what does it take? I think that was there the journey started, and resulting in a couple of papers and presentations and great discussions.
Yeah, I believe this is really very valuable. I mean, if you think about how open BIM is currently serving the market, everyone feels more comfortable when they can interoperable their data into other tools and make use of it also for the long term. Especially with digital twins, I believe the main user or the main owner of the data is really the owners of facilities, more or less. So, I mean, if we think about how a project is progressing and who's operating, at the end, the owner is the main dominant, let's say, party who really wants to harness the value of the digital twins. So having a proper, maybe standard, how the data should be structured, how data should be managed, will be very valuable in an open way, will be very valuable for the owners as well. So they can make sure that they own their digital twin as well.
Yeah, and I think and it's important that in the digital twin of their asset, not just their own data, but also data of their value chain they collaborate with comes together in a safe, a secure, trusted environment, and without making that. Yeah, and I think then you get a little bit in the vision about how should future interoperability look like. So how do we exchange data in a trusted way, and you get in federated data sharing kind of concept and link data and those kind of things. But I think it's I do agree that it's open standards and interoperability together really creates the opportunity for asset owners to become even better in control of their assets from a financial, operational, legal, environmental perspective.
Yeah, and also to reflect maybe on the standards that buildingSMART is doing at the moment. Like if we have BIM data structured with the specific maybe requirements or specific information, now we have information that's useful for design and construction. So you can define the content, let's say, of your data. I believe there is also a need for proper definition of what information classifications and so on is needed for the operations of the buildings across the life cycle. Did you touch upon that in those kind of discussions with the buildingSMART side, prompt tables and so on?
Yes, and I think it's kind of the roadmap towards. I think 1.5 years ago in Rome, I think it was around Rome, they did publish their strategic roadmap, and you also see that kind of connected digital twins was not on the first step of the roadmap; it was a kind of working towards that goal in the end. And I think that also puts buildingSMART on a trajectory to focus across the asset lifecycle and go into the phase we just mentioned gradually, because I think we should be keep an eye on the complexity on practical levels, what it means. So I think it's one step at a time, but it's good to already think ahead and look back from that future to now and say, okay, now we in IFC 4.3, we take this step, but in 5, we take a next step in that route. And therefore it helps that already the thought about that connected ecosystem of digital twins and the exchange of not just building data, but also operational data. And let's just take the smart building space with the diversity of standards around there, which also are partly depending on open standards, partly are proprietary. So I think that's so I think by connecting the connected digital twins vision of the working group to that roadmap, they make clear we get there, but we take steps at a time that is achievable and also be implementable in the sector. But it's definitely on the road. It should be definitely on the roadmap to go across the asset life cycle. Because I think that's another topic. It's not just about new buildings. A lot of the challenges, especially in Europe, but I think in other parts of the world as well, will be on existing buildings. Yeah, and how do you deal with that? And then I think it starts with having create a digital twin of the existing situation, and you get in, of course, cloud and the great practices out there, point to after scanning and then before apologies. So that's that does make sense, and it's in my view it should gradually go in that direction.
Yeah, I really like it, and I completely agree. So we hear the same from the market, from different kinds of interactions. Now you already mentioned GIS, BIM. Now with the reality captures about existing buildings, maybe if you can highlight the top 4, 5 data sources that you think becoming common when creating digital twins. Because I mean, as we said, digital twin is not it's not a model or an object. It's like a system or some kind of orchestrator existing, like combining different things. So maybe from what you mentioned, I already started putting those kind of keywords with each other and imagining a digital twin. But I don't know if you can complement that.
Yeah, I think that from a tech and data perspective, you would indeed say asset information, time series data, or dynamic information, for all kind of. I think even more important for value creation is business information. So it's not just about the asset in itself, but how it relates to the business objectives for the user of the digital twin. That's the business perspective, but I also think there's a human perspective in this. And I think a lot of value of digital twins is not just about analyzing data, but it's the interpretation of data and giving meaning to that data and make decisions based on that data. And that's really where the human machine interaction in the digital twin world comes in. And I think that's also why I do believe that, for example, engineering firms, but I think it's go beyond that, of course,
Yes.
really can create a lot of value if they combine their domain knowledge as professional with the potential of digital twins and find a kind of optimum between human and machine, kind of, if you know what I mean, to really make a difference. Because then it adds value to really more complex challenges at hand on one end. But on the other hand, I think it's also essential for trust. And I think it's easy to say, okay, I can lower energy cost in my building with a digital twin. But it gets more critical when I say I use my predictive digital twin to make a decision to replace a bridge or not. And then you want that human involvement, human in the loop in your digital twin as well. So I think it's And the simple answer would be all kind of sorts of data, but I think also human data, human behaviors, and human understanding, and business data, human business understanding are as important as well.
And this is showing us how digital twins can be valuable or bring an ROI. So this is the main topic I always hear when I discuss with anyone about digital twins. What's the ROI? Why would I need to do this? What's the value of doing this? It's a lot of effort. It's expensive. And what you said is really answering that, bringing the business data, giving meaning and value to those kind of sources we put together to give insights that a human can even interpret or interact with to deliver better values. Becomes like really like added value or the benefit of digital twins.
And I think the challenge with that, because it does make sense from a business perspective, so I fully agree. I think one of the challenges we face is that a lot of value of a digital twin is not just with the owner or the investor in the digital twin. There's a lot of spillover effects to others potentially. And also there's a little bit, one of the challenges is, investing in interoperability, it's not a business investment of one company or one asset owner. It's kind of a society investment, investing in standards and interoperability. And then the bigger business case, if you like, or the ROI for the bigger system comes in. And that's why I like to see that a couple of larger asset owners, but also larger countries take leadership or initiatives to look into interoperability of digital twins or to mandate open standards. All kind of societal decisions or by governments to really lead the way or pave the way or create the environment that the direct benefit of a digital twin in a business context or an ecosystem of digital twins becomes more sensible and does make more sense. And I think we should be aware that also policymakers, governments have a role to play in this development to make it happen. Not just businesses, not just tech companies, not just the engineering, construction value chain and maintenance companies. I think it's a collective effort, which I gradually see happening in a couple of countries across the world.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think we see now BIM adoption is becoming better, even with such kind of interventions from the government and standardization efforts. You mentioned like different countries and the national authorities. So can you tell us a little bit more about the National Innovation Program you're leading at the moment in the Netherlands? I think you already touched upon bridges. I feel there is some kind of a bridges in this topic, and maybe if you can tell us a little bit more, like overall, what's behind it? So what's the thinking there?
There are two kind of, I think, relevant strategic initiatives in this context. And it all goes to, another way of using twin is the twin transition. So not digital twin, but the twin transition. And it's a strong understanding and belief increasingly that for us, societal challenge in the built environment around climate, around sustainability, about being adaptive to change, strategic autonomy, all those topics that dominate the news these days. The built environment has a key role to play to make that happen and facilitate it. And so in that twin transition, on one hand, we need to bring better the potential of data and digital technology to that challenge. And that's what I do in my national program in the Netherlands, looking at the existing built assets, houses, infrastructure, utility buildings, so offices and the like, to really, we have a big challenge about how do we keep them, extend the lifetime from a construction perspective. So asset integrity, make sure that we optimal use the strength they have, and they are aging assets, increasingly in parts of Europe, in the Netherlands in particular. And you also see it in the States, by the way. But also you have the whole sustainability challenge. How do we reduce emissions for those? And how do we adapt them to changing needs? Because transport changes, electrical vehicles will change. People want to live differently. People get older. I think they're all kind of changing the built environment. And in that area, I do personally really believe that digital twins can help us to create at the start of such a renovation challenge a proper digital replica of the physical situation at hand, and use that to model, plan, and implement the renovation as such. Not just as a project perspective, but take that as a starting point for their journey from renovation to operations and forward. So use the momentum to build that digital twin we all need, but do it on proper data standards, interoperability, and the like. So in my program, my national mission, we try to establish those programs where we do this for bridges, for office buildings, for houses, and really come to this public-private partnership programs where we develop on a large scale the innovations and the systems required for that. On the other hand, is that it also takes a couple of enablers to do so. So you see as well in the Netherlands that we did invest quite a lot in our national open standards in our interoperability framework, how to safely share data across the value chain. And that is as important as the first one, because if we don't have standards in place, if we can't build in one way or more common way digital twins of the physical assets, we make a lot of costs, which no return on investment on the longer run. So there you see on the first one, you see asset owners, business owners, then take a lead. On the second one, governments gets in and say, okay, there are a couple of enablers required, and we should take their initiative. And I think these two developments come together at national level, really reinforcing each other. And therefore, it's not just a push from the IT or digital side to the physical world, use this, but there's also a clear pull from the twin transition side and my renovation program to actually use it. And I quite often see that misalignment between business and IT on business level as well happening. So IT is developing the standards, is having the frameworks in place, but the business is not yet there to adopt it and use it. And then it kind of stands still, or miscommunication happens and the return of investment is not yet achieved.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, I think this is very nice to hear, and I hope we will see such kind of more initiatives happening worldwide. What I liked of what you said, especially that it's like creating a digital twin that's fit to purpose. So we should have in mind what kind of use case we need from the digital twin, and then already invest early on in the value of it that we can use later over time. Since we talk about innovations, if I would switch gear again to technicalities, digital twins as a phrase, it is like a trendy phrase or topic. But beside it now is also AI. How do you see AI playing together with digital twins?
I think it's, for me, it's a triangle. So you have data on one corner, you have digital twins on the other side of the bottom of the pyramid, and on top you have AI, but you can also in a different format, because both digital twins and AI depend on data, quality data and data from various sources to create value from it. And they both, as I said before, digital twins and AI depends on human data interaction to give meaning to it, in my view. And so I think based on data, you can build, of course, a digital twin, as we said before. And digital twins also generate data backhand, because if you create a simulation with a digital twin, it generates new data or it gets new time series through the IoT layers of the digital twin. I think AI can be part in digital twins if you look more at the prescriptive side of digital twins, where it really starts helping you making decisions or gives you more advanced simulations. So that's one role AI could play. So it really can create additional level of value to the digital twin. But it's not an initial level of development and complexity to it as well. So it does make sense, but it's therefore it's not in digital, but it's in a triangle. And that's one purpose I do see of AI, that it really can enhance the value of digital twins by adding more complexity, more learning capabilities over time to the digital twins and make the digital twins smarter. Let's put it that way. Another way of where I see AI come in is making digital twins accessible. And I think that's not yet too often mentioned side of digital twins. They can be quite complex. But if you can use the power of generated AI and prompting a digital twin model, that really can lower the barrier to use them. It really can help you to better exchange or interact with a digital twin model in a different way. And I think let's take a simple example of a building, and I do energy management with my digital twin. It takes a lot of capabilities to understand the dashboards of a digital twin. But if I can use prompting and ask questions, where can I optimize? How can I do this? Is we integrate the generative AI power and the easy of use of those tools to query the digital twin. I think we will see a rise in adoption potentially. And so for me, I think they really have a strong connection. They're different things, but they should reinforce each other and should be built. And I come back to my interoperability standards, data governance framework. They should be based on the same foundations, because then the value is there. If not, we create a lot of new spaghetti, of different taste, and I don't think it's all spaghetti. It's it doesn't taste more. Yeah.
Like it is tasty as well, but I mean, overall, I agree. It's if they are trained on the same data or the same concepts, then we speak the same language at the end, and we don't need to harmonize much. So if I summarize what you said, so digital twins can be good in federating data or preparing, aggregating this digital twin maybe from different sources, different types of data, and then AI can even allow the humans to easily query and interact and get insights after this data in an easy way, and even make it like easy to interpret as well. Not just seeing some dashboards that look nice, but what do I really learn from them? How can I optimize by building? How can I improve my workflows from those kind of insights? All right, so moving from AI to the interoperability piece, you mentioned it again, and I mean, we all know that interoperability is the heart of building smart. So there was also a recent paper published by the working group you're leading there. And can you tell us a little bit more about it and yeah, what kind of insights are in there?
Now, I think one of the frameworks we brought together and shared with the community and beyond was what we called the three horizon framework. So we said we have the here and now, where we know where we are, with the challenges we face about data quality, interoperability, standards, and the like. And there's a lot of hard work to be done and happening on that space. On the other hand, we have that future vision where we have a connected digital twins where really, depending on the context, the right information gets in the right form to the right person to make the right decision in a trusted, safe, sustainable way. But I think to get there, it's not just about the status and mobility. Other topics needs to happen as well. And they're not all primarily sitting with buildingSMART International, but in the context they need to happen. And things like the whole digital mindset of the sector, the AEC industry. I think we're still struggling that a lot of people don't understand, have the minimal understanding about these concepts. The small parts of organizations do, but a lot beyond that, there's still a lot of digital immaturity happening. And that's a risk, because if you don't have sufficient digital maturity, how can you trust the digital twin in your business decisions? How can you trust AI in a way? So I think one topic is about the digital mindset, the capabilities there, but it's also about governance, about how do we create rules and regulations that facilitate it. What do we do with mandates? How do we deal with societal and environmental and economic perspectives of the digital twin? How do I deal with that area? Do I create, if a building has a digital twin, so to be better managed, does it create additional value of the building from a financial perspective? Those kind of topics. So we call them the 7 perspectives. And it really opened up the door to more holistic thinkers say, hey, we need to work on these things in conjunction. It's not just about a technical roadmap, it's also about a business, or maybe it's also about a society roadmap. I think that was an important addition. The other addition we did in the latest paper was that we said, okay, but if you start then zooming out fully, and if you look at digital twins on a city level or on a built environment level, that are really complex systems. So digital twins also, especially if you move beyond the object level, the building level, they become part of really complex physical systems we have out there. And what we tried to add there was much more system thinking, which is quite a new area in the built environment, to really help us to understand how the built environment behaves, and build digital twins to facilitate and help us with that. So the whole system perspective and system thinking, I think, is a powerful concept, which is quite new for the sector, but it's for the challenges we face, where climate adaptation, resilience, sustainability, strategic autonomy come together. At you as an asset owner, you as a city, is really required to understand how does the system work and what interventions should I do. And the digital twin, in my view, or a connected ecosystem of digital twins, really can help there. But it requires other capabilities again. So it's not just about the technical data interoperability side, but it's also about mindset governance, but it's also about system thinking and system design.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, I mean, overall, there are systems which are smaller, maybe at the building level or even at the like equipment level, which each system has an impact on the other system that's containing it, and it's like top down and bottom up impacts going up and down, but maybe bridging this to how people can manage this information and get what they need out of it, I think we need to have the human factor after on top of it, like really in an easy to interact way, and at the same time, we should show what's only relevant for specific use cases because it would be flooded with a lot of information. Yeah, but that's really nice. If I would like to read more about this paper, I mean, I can find it probably online via
Yeah, they're published by buildingSMART International. We also recently delivered a blog where we try to translate these concepts to the Finnish transport agency to read what does it mean for an asset owner a little bit more on a practical level, and how does this more holistic thinking about system thinking, 7 perspectives, link to the daily challenges of an asset operator getting in control of his data and of his assets. And there's still a gap, to be honest, but that's fine. And that's why, as I said before, we try to get a kind of future vision of direction, and using that future vision of direction, you can build your roadmap and say, what step do I take towards that vision and direction as a company, but also as a society, and what role should the platforms like buildingSMART play there, but also the GIS community, the IoT community, and others.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. I really love how this turned out. Before we wrap up, Bart, so if now there is like an airport or hospital or any kind of facility owner would like to adopt digital twins or implement digital twins, could you give them some advices or give some advices to our listeners to how can they approach digital twins? Sometimes it feels like a huge big thing that's complicated, but maybe if you can give them some advices to take it step by step somehow, this could help adoption and it could help people get the feeling of the technology and also the value that come after it.
I think, generally speaking, the digital twin market is maturing step by step, and it doesn't go it doesn't. It's maturing, and so the availability of tools and best practice and use cases is also growing alongside with it. So I get your inspiration of what works and doesn't work helps. So if you get into that space now, you're no longer the early innovators or adopters. You're part of the early majority, and that's great because we need that to scale digital twins further. But they get better and better. Technology is getting better and better. The standards get better and better. So I think the value gets better and better and more proven. But generally speaking. Secondly, I think there's always 2 perspectives to take into account here. The kind of the road mapping perspective. So what is your future vision looks like for your business, and how does digital twin play a role, and what steps to take? But it's a little bit the top-down view. And in parallel, you should just do it. And I did start with small use cases and find a use case which has a lot of business value with minimal cost. Start there, because then you get that wheels running and spinning, and you take step by step by step. Don't hopefully invest in a large digital twin platform that in 2 years' time will create finally some business value, because you're in the risk: 1, it's outdated; 2, you might have chosen the wrong platform; 3, and you only learn by doing what are the use cases that really can benefit from this technology; and 4, again, human in the loop. You need to take people alongside and starting small with use cases, take people in a loop, make them part of the development process of your digital twin. And I'm not talking about product owners and data, but also business people, is key to success. Because in the end, if they don't use, in the end, the digital twin, then you don't get the business value that's being promised. And then it ends up with a nice experiment of new technology that is, again, and to be honest, that's the case often in our industry, is not being adopted to its full scale. It remains a nice experiment, but we keep doing what we did because we kind of implement it in the wrong way.
Or many people, I see them implementing these treatments for the sake of technology, not really, as you said, like choose the easy use case that can bring you value to get a feeling how this can really work out. So this advice is really very helpful. Perfect. So thanks a lot, Bart, for your time. And it's really a pleasure to have you here. Before we wrap up, last thing, I would like that you share with our listeners how they can find you. Are you available on some platforms like social media and so on? And what's the way to reach you out?
Now, the easiest way is my LinkedIn profile, and that's the easiest way. Secondly, of course, on the buildingSMART website, I think there are contact details, but I think the easiest way is through LinkedIn, I would say, because then you can find also the links to the things being published in the past. So that might be the best way. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you again, Bart, and keep the good work going. I look forward to what will come next also from your side. Yeah, and nice to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to have a chat with you, Jimmy.